Greetings FGOC. This is my 2023 in the bag. So, getting right into it, I have my putting putter, the Penrose. I had this disc last year, but it wasn't in the bag. Last year I had the KC Pro AVR, but I switched to this disc because they kept breaking on me every time I was putting in the cold. So I've really liked how these are. They're really stable. They're 0-2, so they've got some stability to it, but I can really depend on them when I do my spin putt. So they can fly pretty straight with a little hyzer into the chains. So I threw these as well as putting them last year, so they got a little bit beat in and a little warped. So I went ahead and I got 2 more medium plastic Penroses. These are going to be my putting putters. I'm not going to throw these ones, so these ones are going to stay in a little bit better shape. And they're also a little bit lighter, just to glide into the basket a little bit easier. I also picked up a firm Penrose as well as a soft Penrose. Just a little bit of variety for different climates. If it's going to be colder or hotter, I'll switch up between the two possibly. Next up we have throwing putters. So this is my zone, this is my main approach disc. I use this backhand predominantly. I will use it forehand as well. Super reliable. I know exactly that it's gonna come back. And I'll use this for some drives as well. Just a super stable and reliable disc. Another approach disc is the A3. I haven't thrown this as much as the zone nearly, but I do like forehanding this disc. This is a really nice forehand disc. It's super flat. It's got a really flat profile, and I do really like forehanding this. I find it's a little straighter than the zone, so it'll be a little bit longer, a little bit straighter of a shot. All right, moving on, right into mid-ranges. So this disc has been in my bag for quite a while. It's my understable Buzz. This is predominantly and only forehand. I will rarely backhand this disc. Forehand, I'll manipulate it quite a bit. So I have a lot of kind of hyzer shots. This will get me out of jail in woods quite a bit. It's one of the discs that I know exactly what it's going to do, and I can kind of put on any angle, and I'm confident that I know where it'll end up. So it's a staple in my bag, and it's going to stay there. So, and then we have second Buzz. I picked this Buzz up at a tournament, and it's a 2015, so it probably had a previous owner before me, but I really like it. It's dead straight. It'll fly dead straight with a slight fade on the end of it. You can get a flex shot out of it as well, but it's super dependable for just being dead straight. This is the one disc I trust in the woods. And I dyed it as well, so it's got a cool dye to it. It's a ESP Glow Buzz. Moving on, we have a Paul Macbeth prototype Malta. This is the first Malta I got. I've fallen in love with the Maltas. Absolutely love the disc. This one is pretty beat in though, so it's going to be straight with a pretty dependable fade on it. So it's still got the overstability, but it's definitely going to be a straighter shot. And then right after that, got another Malta, much newer Malta. So this is going to be my stable Malta. I love to forehand it, backhand it. It's my main mid-range overstable disc, so I really depend on this one quite a bit. All right, moving right in to fairway drivers. This one's a little wet, it's got some use. I like it a lot. This was a little bit newer to my bag. I haven't thrown an FD too much as of last year, but I've been throwing it more and more, and I really like how dependable it is. It's super straight. It's got a reliable fade on it if you put a little bit of hyzer on it, but it's also got a nice flex to it if you put it on the right angle. It's kind of like a mid-range of fairways, so it's not too fast. It's a 7-speed, but it's kind of just got the right distance for a lot of approach shots, your longer par 4 approach shots. My T-Bird 3, this is probably my favorite fairway. As you might be able to see, there's some signatures on it. It's an ace disc, so obviously I've done well with it. It's starting to fade, the color on the edges is starting to fade because it's one of my oldest discs. But the T-Bird 3 is still super reliable, even though it's really, really beat in. It's still super overstable. I think it's that Champion plastic that just doesn't break down. So it's super reliable, and I can throw it pretty straight, but it'll always come back. So that is a super nice, reliable disc to have in your bag. I recommend everybody has a T-Bird 3. I love it. All right, then we have the Fusion Escape by Dynamic Discs. I bought this from a used bin up at Justin Trails for $5, and it's a super straight flyer, more flippy, I would say more on the understable side. So I do a lot of turnover shots with it. It's a good forehand standstill. So if I'm in the woods and I can't really get a clean run up, then I'm gonna do a forehand standstill with this disc, and I know I can get it straight with minimal effort. Otherwise, it's a great turnover backhand disc. I'm pretty sure it's got some stability to it if it were new. I'm not sure the numbers exactly, but it must have gotten really beat in from somebody because it's pretty flippy. This is one of the most recent additions to my bag. This is the Onyx. I kind of needed pretty straight flying fairway that had some stability but was more of a distance fairway. I think it's a 10-speed, so I guess it's not really considered a fairway, but I usually classify it in that group. But it's one of my bombers, so it flies pretty straight, and it'll push. It feels like it'll push a little bit further than those other fairways, so it'll kind of break through into that driver territory. If I need to get something pretty far out there, but not as far as a driver, I'm going to scale back, and I'm going to use the Onyx. Have the FX2. This is my super stable, dependable fairway. I don't throw this as much just because I usually scale up to an overstable driver, but I'm looking to use this one a lot more this season. I like using fairways, they're very controllable, so this one feels really good too. So I really am starting to like this disc. Haven't thrown it too much, but I'm super excited to be throwing the FX2 this season. All right, starting into distance drivers, we have my G-Star Shrike. This is my touch forehand disc, and as I discovered last year, it's actually really good for big turnover shots. It actually is pretty reliable for still coming back. It's relatively new, so it'll always kind of fade back on you, but it's really good for those huge shots where you're kind of just yanking it out there and you're gonna give a big turnover on it, and then it'll flex out at the end, or just a dead straight forehand. It's my main forehand flick disc, so G-Star Shrike, must have in the bag. All right, got two discs here. They're the exact same, the Orion LS. I picked one of these discs up because they look cool. 2 years ago, I think it was this one, and absolutely fell in love with it. It is so straight, so controllable. There's something about it. It feels really comfortable in the hands. It's got a nice bend to it, and it's relatively flat, but it's just super good. I mean, as the title says, it says long straight driver, and that's exactly what it is. It goes far and it goes straight, and it'll have a little bit of fade on it if you put it on a little hyzer or flat. Otherwise, it's a super good turnover disc as well. If you put it on a little bit of anhyzer, it'll just hold that line. Whatever line you put it on, it'll hold it. So this is my older one. It's a little more beat in, but this one is also 162 grams, so much lighter than this one. So this one is a little bit more understable than this one. Moving right on, we have a Star Wraith. I got this one in Colorado last year, and after throwing a couple Wraiths from a couple friends, I realized I really needed one. A great forehand disc, my main forehand disc. It'll go straight, it'll turn over, it's very reliable. I like for max distance forehands. I'll throw this backhand sometimes as well. It's not as stable for me when I throw backhand, but with the forehand, it is pretty straight flying and we'll get some stability to it at the end. So this is kind of like my max. If I want to throw as far as I can with the forehand, I'm going to throw the Star Wraith. Moving right up, this is definitely the MVP, no pun intended, but it's not an MVP disc, but this is probably my favorite distance driver. It's the Rive. I absolutely loved this disc. It was pretty stable on me at first, and I didn't know if I was gonna like how stable it was, but it beat in beautifully, and now it's just perfectly seasoned. It's my max distance backhand disc, and if I put this flat, it'll have a perfect flex and a slight fade at the end, but it won't go too far. It'll die pretty quick. So I really like this for some flex straighter shots. Moving right on, we have another Rive, and this is a Linus Carlson Rive. And I picked this one up a little bit later after I realized how much I love the Rive. I knew I needed another one once my other one broke in. So this one is newer, and so it's basically just a step up from my other Rive, so it's got some stability. It feels on par with my Destroyer, but I like the way the Rives feel a little bit better. So I'm gonna choose this disc over the Destroyer usually. Speaking of which, we have my Star Destroyer. Nothing to scoff at. This is a great disc. And super reliable. If I'm throwing into a headwind, I'm gonna throw the Destroyer. I know exactly what it's gonna do, and it's never gonna turn over on you. I mean, if you can put as much as you want into it, and it's not gonna end right. It's always gonna end left, and it has a pretty severe fade on it. So, but you need a Destroyer type disc in your bag for sure. All right, what do we got here? All right, we have the Discraft Hanem Force. This is another super stable disc. This is less of a distance driver for me. It's so stable that I don't really throw it too often. But yeah, if there's a really ripping headwind, I'll throw this. If I need to go on a hyzer and just carry that line super quick, I'm gonna throw the Force. Last but not least, we have the Halo Boss. I'm super excited to throw this. I got it last fall, but I didn't get to throw it too much, and it is really light. So it's 164, but this is a super interesting disc. I've never thrown anything like it before. It's really stable, but it'll go straight, and then it'll hook, it'll fade left on you super quick if you're throwing backhand at the righty. Like, it'll just track right to the ground like immediately. It's really weird. Like, it'll go straight and then it'll hook right away. There's no kind of flow into it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's gonna be super handy to have for a kind of shot that you need to go straight and then die right at the end there. So it's light, but it's a big disc. I mean, you gotta put a lot into this. It's not for the faint of heart. I don't think I'll be forehanding this at all. I think that about does it. I do have a chalk bag. I'm not in my bag right now. It's currently drying. But this is my Dynamic Disc Trooper bag, same as last year. No need to upgrade. But yeah, that's my 2023 FGOC in the bag. Could change a little bit, but these are my main discs that I'm going to be depending on. And I'm excited to get off in the season. I've been playing a little bit in the snow, but just looking forward to getting out in a little bit of warmer temperature. So that's my in the bag. and I look forward to seeing yours. HG out.